50 years had passed since the day New Busan disappeared from the galaxy's maps. What had once been a desperate hiding place had become something remarkable. The underground city of Haven now stretched across 3 continents, connected by high-speed transport tunnels that could move people and goods faster than most surface vehicles. Admiral Yoon Jae-sung was one of the few people who remembered the old world. He had been a young lieutenant in the Terran Navy when the evacuation order came. Instead of leaving, he had stayed to help set up their hidden communication systems. Now, at 75 years old, he was the keeper of humanity's secret history. Every day he sat in the communication center, listening to signals from across the galaxy. The aliens thought humans were nearly extinct, reduced to a few struggling colonies and refugee populations. They had no idea that beneath the surface of a supposedly dead world, 200,000 humans lived in prosperity. Dr. Park So-min, now the settlement's chief administrator, joined him for their daily briefing. At 68, she moved more slowly than she once had, but her mind was as sharp as ever. Her terraforming experiments had succeeded beyond anyone's wildest dreams. The new agricultural sectors are producing 20% more food than projected, she reported. And the air recycling systems are so efficient that we're actually improving the underground atmosphere. Yoon nodded, but his attention was on the communication screens. We intercepted another Terran military transmission today, he said. The war ended 20 years ago, but humanity lost badly. Earth is under alien oversight now. Most human colonies are controlled by alien governors. Park sat down beside him. This was the reality they faced every day. The galaxy thought they were dead, but they were also safer that way. No alien empire knew they existed, which meant no alien empire could threaten them. Maybe it's better this way, Park said. We're free to develop as we choose. Captain Shin Bora entered the communication center with a data pad in her hands. At 35, she had been born in Haven and had never seen the surface world. She was part of the new generation that knew no other life than the underground cities. Sir, she said to Admiral Yoon, we've detected something unusual. A Terran probe has entered the system. It's conducting deep scans of the planet. Yoon and Park exchanged glances. This was what they had always feared. Discovery by their own people might be more dangerous than discovery by aliens. If Earth learned they existed, they might be forced to rejoin a humanity that was no longer free. How close will it come to our hidden entrances? Park asked. The probe's current course will take it directly over Haven, Shin replied. Its sensors are more advanced than anything we've seen before. Yoon made a decision that would change everything. We capture it, he said, before it can transmit what it finds back to Earth. The operation was led by Master Sergeant Oh Jin-woo, a man who had spent his entire life training the settlement's security forces. At 50, he was a master of stealth operations. His teams could move across the planet's surface without leaving any trace of their presence. Oh's squad reached the probe's landing site just after it touched down. The small robotic scout was already beginning its surface scans. In a few hours, it would detect the hidden air vents and power signatures that revealed the underground cities. The capture was swift and silent. Oh's people disabled the probe's communication systems before it could send any data back to its controllers. Then they carefully transported it to one of their hidden surface facilities. Kim Tae-woo, now the settlement's chief engineer, examined the captured probe with excitement. At 67, he had spent decades studying alien technology from crashed ships and abandoned equipment. This was his first chance to see advanced human technology. It's incredible, he told the assembled leadership. This probe is 50 years more advanced than anything we had when we went underground. Look at these power systems, these sensors, this computer core. But it was Dr. Bae Kyung-ho, the settlement's expert on external affairs, who made the most disturbing discovery. At 42, he had spent his career analyzing alien communications and human transmissions to understand how the galaxy had changed. This probe wasn't sent to explore, he reported. It was sent to confirm that this system is safe for alien colonization. Earth is selling mapping data to alien corporations. The implications were staggering. Humanity's government was so desperate for resources that they were helping aliens claim former human territories. If the probe had reported back successfully, alien colonists would have arrived within months. Captain Lee Dae-ho, now 90 years old but still sharp, called for an emergency council meeting. The man who had led them into hiding would now have to decide their next step. We have 3 choices, he told the assembled leaders. We can reveal ourselves to Earth and hope they protect us. We can remain hidden and hope the aliens don't come anyway, or we can take control of our own destiny. Lieutenant Nam Soo Jin, one of the settlement's most skilled stealth operatives, raised her hand. At 28, she represented the young generation that had grown up knowing they were humanity's secret weapon. "What does taking control mean?" she asked. Lee smiled. It was the same smile he had worn 50 years ago when they decided to disappear rather than surrender. "It means we stop hiding. It means we start expanding. It means we show the galaxy that humanity is not finished." The decision was put to a vote. For the first time in 50 years, the entire population of the hidden settlements participated in choosing their future. The debate lasted for days. Some wanted to remain hidden, others wanted to contact Earth, but the majority chose the third option. They would reveal themselves, but not as refugees or survivors. They would emerge as conquerors. Dr. Park So-min's terraforming technology had advanced far beyond its original purpose. She had learned to create perfect underground environments, to manage entire ecosystems, to support massive populations with minimal resources. Her knowledge could transform dead worlds into gardens. Kim Tae-woo's engineering teams had built wonders. Their manufacturing capabilities exceeded most alien civilizations. Their transportation systems moved people and goods more efficiently than anything the galaxy had seen. Their power generation was clean, unlimited, and completely hidden from detection. Admiral Yoon's communication networks had been listening to the galaxy for 50 years. He knew the location of every alien base, every trade route, every military installation within 50 light years. He knew their strengths, their weaknesses, and their secrets. Commander Choi Hee-jin's security forces had trained for decades in environments that would kill most soldiers. They could fight in vacuum, in underground tunnels, in toxic atmospheres. They knew every centimeter of their star system and could defend it against any threat. But most importantly, Captain Shin Bora's generation had grown up believing they were the future of humanity. They had been told since childhood that they were special, that they carried the hopes of their species, that someday they would inherit the stars. They were ready to claim that inheritance. The captured probe became their first tool of conquest. Kim's engineers studied its technology and improved upon it. They built their own probes, their own sensors, their own communication systems, but theirs were designed to hide rather than reveal. Within months, hidden observation posts were established throughout the star system. Every asteroid, every moon, every orbital path was monitored. The aliens who occasionally passed through the system never realized they were being watched by human eyes. Dr. Park So-min began the most ambitious project in the settlement's history. Deep beneath the planet's surface, construction began on a massive shipyard. It would be built inside a hollowed-out mountain, completely invisible from orbit but capable of producing vessels that could challenge any alien fleet. The work would take decades. The ships would be unlike anything the galaxy had seen. They would combine human engineering with alien technology, stealth systems with overwhelming firepower, advanced life support with weapons that could crack planets. Lee Dae-ho stood in the main chamber of Haven, watching children play games that prepared them for space combat. Their parents worked on technologies that would reshape the galaxy. Their grandparents told stories of the day humanity would reclaim its rightful place among the stars. "How long?" Dr. Park So-min asked. "How long before we're ready?" Lee looked at the displays showing their growing population, their advancing technology, their expanding influence. 25 years, he said. "In 25 years, we'll have the ships, the people, and the knowledge we need. And then?" Park asked. Lee's smile was the same one that had convinced 50,000 people to disappear into the Earth. "And then we remind the galaxy why humans are dangerous when they're underestimated. The probe's failure to report back would be noticed eventually. Earth would send another scout, then investigators, then possibly military forces. But by then, it would be too late. The hidden settlement would be ready to reveal itself, not as victims seeking help, but as masters of their own destiny. The humans who had vanished 50 years ago were preparing to return. But they would return as something the galaxy had never seen before, a humanity that had learned to thrive in secret, to plan in generations, and to strike from the shadows. Captain Lee Dae-ho stood at the edge of the mine shaft, watching the last transport ship disappear into the red sky of Kepler 442c. The Terran Colonial Authority had given them 3 days to evacuate. 3 days to abandon everything they had built over the past 15 years. 3 days to leave behind their homes, their dreams, and their future. But Lee Dae-ho was not leaving. Behind him, 50,000 colonists waited in the main settlement of New Busan. They had voted. They had decided. They would stay and fight for their world, even if Earth had given up on them. The war had been going badly for humanity. The alien coalition called the Dominion was pushing human forces back on every front. Earth needed every ship, every soldier, every resource to defend the core worlds. Outer rim colonies like New Busan were considered expendable. Dr. Park So-min walked up beside him, her tablet showing the evacuation numbers. Only 12,000 people had left on the transport ships. The rest had chosen to stay. Are we crazy? She asked, looking at the dust cloud left by the departing ships. Maybe, Lee replied, but this is our home now. Park So-min had been the colony's chief scientist since the beginning. She had helped design the terraforming systems that were slowly changing the planet's atmosphere. She had studied every rock, every mineral, every cave system on their continent. If anyone could help them survive, it was her. Engineer Kim Tae-woo jogged up to them, his face covered in grease and dirt. He had been working non-stop for 3 days trying to get their defense systems online. The orbital platforms are down, he reported. The evacuation fleet took them offline before they left. We have no protection from space, Lee nodded. He had expected this. The Terran military did not want their technology falling into alien hands. They had disabled everything that could be useful to the enemy. What about the mining equipment? Lee asked. Kim smiled for the first time in days. That they left alone. Guess they figured mining lasers aren't much good against battleships. Commander Choi Hae-jin arrived with a squad of colonial marines. These were the security forces that had chosen to stay behind. Most were local recruits who had grown up on the planet. This was their home more than Earth had ever been. Sir, Choi said, saluting. Long-range sensors show alien ships entering the system. 3 cruisers and a dozen smaller vessels. They'll be here in 6 hours. Lee looked at his team. These 4 people would have to help him save 50,000 lives. The thought should have been terrifying, but instead he felt calm. They had been preparing for this moment since the first news of the war reached them. All right, he said. You all know the plan. It's time to disappear. The plan had been Dr. Park So-min's idea. The planet had massive cave systems beneath the surface. The original surveys had shown networks of tunnels that stretched for thousands of kilometers underground. The mining operations had only scratched the surface of what lay beneath. We go underground, Park had said during the planning meetings. We seal the entrances. We make them think the planet is empty. It sounded impossible, but Kim Tae-woo had run the numbers. The mining equipment could be adapted. The life support systems could be moved. The entire colony could disappear beneath the ground in less than a week. The evacuation began immediately. Not evacuation to the stars, but evacuation into the Earth itself. Kim's engineering teams had been preparing for months. They had identified 17 cave systems large enough to hold significant populations. They had installed power generators in hidden locations. They had built air recycling systems and water purification plants deep underground. The colonists moved quickly and quietly. Families packed their most important belongings. Farmers dismantled their equipment piece by piece. Factory workers broke down entire production lines and carried them into the caves. Dr. Park So-min led teams of scientists in collecting every piece of useful technology. Medical equipment, computers, fabrication machines, communication systems. Everything went into the underground facilities. Commander Choi's security teams worked on the most dangerous part of the plan. They had to make the surface look abandoned while setting up hidden defenses. Fake ruins were constructed to make it look like the colony had been destroyed years ago. Real buildings were collapsed or burned, but beneath the surface the real work was happening. The cave systems were vast, but they needed modification to support human life. Mining lasers cut new passages between chambers. Underground rivers were diverted to provide fresh water. Ventilation systems were carved into the rock to provide fresh air throughout the complex. The largest cave system, which they named Haven, became the main population center. It could hold 30,000 people in relative comfort. The chamber was so large that they could grow crops under artificial sunlight. Water fell from underground springs like rain. 6 smaller cave systems became specialized facilities. One held all the manufacturing equipment. Another became the medical center. A third housed the communication and computer systems. Each was connected to the others by transport tunnels. As the alien ships approached the planet, the last surface structures were destroyed. Kim's teams used controlled explosions to collapse the mine entrances. From orbit, it would look like the planet had been strip-mined and abandoned. Lee Dae-ho stood in the main chamber of Haven, watching families settle into their new underground homes. Children played in areas that had been solid rock just days before. Farmers planted seeds in soil that had been transported from the surface. Engineers worked on expanding the power systems. Dr. Park So-min approached with her latest reports. "Life support is stable," she said. "We have enough food and water for 6 months, maybe more if we're careful." "And after 6 months?" Lee asked. "We learn to be self-sufficient," Park replied. "The underground rivers can support fish farming. The artificial lighting can grow crops year-round. We have mineral deposits for manufacturing. We can do this." Kim Tae-woo was more excited than worried. "The aliens will think this planet is empty," he said. "But we'll be down here learning, building, growing stronger. When they leave, we'll still be here." Commander Choi had set up monitoring stations throughout the cave systems. "We can watch everything that happens on the surface, Carr," she reported. "If they land troops, we'll know. If they set up bases, we'll know. And if they ever threaten us directly, we'll be ready." The alien ships arrived as predicted. For 3 days, they scanned the planet from orbit. They found the ruins of the colony, the collapsed mines, the abandoned equipment. Everything looked exactly as it was supposed to look, like a failed human settlement that had been evacuated years ago. The aliens landed briefly, just long enough to confirm there were no humans left. Then they departed, marking the system as cleared of human presence in their databases. Deep underground, 50,000 humans celebrated quietly. They had done it. They had vanished completely from the galaxy's view. They were free to build their own future. Lee Dae-ho walked through the growing underground city. In just 1 week, it had transformed from empty caves into a functioning community. People were adapting faster than he had dared hope. "What do we do now?" Dr. Park So-min asked. Lee looked around at their new world. Children were already calling the tunnels home. Adults were planning improvements and expansions. This was no longer a temporary hiding place. This was the beginning of something new. "Now we survive," he said. "We grow, we learn, and someday when we're ready, we show the galaxy that humanity is far from finished." Above them, the planet's surface lay empty and silent. Below, in the hidden chambers carved from living rock, a new chapter of human history was beginning. The colony that was supposed to die had instead chosen to disappear, to wait, and to become something the galaxy had never seen before. The last human settlement had become the first human ghost. 25 years after capturing their first Terran probe, the hidden settlement had become something that would have seemed impossible to the original colonists. The underground cities now housed 500,000 people across 12 different cave systems. What had once been a desperate survival plan had evolved into the most advanced human civilization in the galaxy. Captain Ryu Dong-min stood on the bridge of the stealth ship Shadow Walker, watching the alien convoy pass through their star system. At 43, he had been born in the underground cities and trained from childhood for this moment. He was the first captain of humanity's secret fleet, and today marked the beginning of their expansion beyond their home system. Convoy consists of 12 cargo vessels and 3 escort cruisers, reported Lieutenant Nam Soo-jin from the sensor station. Corvani Empire markings. They're carrying refined metals from the outer mining systems. Ryu nodded. For 5 years, they had been watching alien traffic pass through their system. The 3 major alien powers in this sector treated the supposedly empty system as a convenient shortcut between their territories. They had no idea they were being observed by human eyes every time they passed through. The Shadow Walker was invisible to alien sensors. Its hull was coated with materials that absorbed electromagnetic radiation. Its engines produced no detectable emissions. Its weapons were hidden behind retractable panels that looked like ordinary hull plating. To any alien scanner, it appeared to be nothing more than a small asteroid. Dr. Bae Kyung-ho joined Ryu on the bridge. At 67, he had become the settlement's expert on alien psychology and behavior. He had studied every species in the sector, learning their strengths, weaknesses, and most importantly, their blind spots. "The Corvani are getting careless," Bae observed. 5 years ago, their convoys traveled with full military escorts. Now they use minimal protection. They think this region is completely secure. Good, Ryu replied. That makes our job easier. The Shadow Walker was not alone. 7 other stealth ships moved through the system, tracking different alien vessels and installations. Each was crewed by humans who had trained their entire lives for stealth operations. They were the eyes and ears of the growing human fleet. Colonel Han Min-soo commanded the ground forces from a hidden base on the system's largest asteroid. At 38, he had never seen Earth or any other human world outside their system. To him, the underground cities were not hiding places. They were the heart of human space, and everything else was territory waiting to be reclaimed. Surface teams report successful placement of monitoring stations on moons 4, 7, and 12, Han reported. We now have full sensor coverage of the entire system. Nothing moves without our knowledge. Dr. Park So-min, now 93 but still active, reviewed the intelligence reports in her underground laboratory. The terraforming expert had become something far more important. She was the architect of humanity's expansion plan. The aliens have mapped 47 star systems in this sector, she said to the assembled commanders, but their maps are incomplete. They don't know about the hidden resources, the dangerous areas, or the strategic weaknesses. We do. For 25 years, human stealth probes had been mapping every system within 50 light years. They had found abandoned alien facilities, rich asteroid belts, and most importantly, other human populations that the aliens thought they controlled completely. Captain Shinbo-ra, now 60 years old and a fleet admiral, coordinated the rescue operations from the command center deep beneath Haven. We've successfully extracted 12,000 humans from the Veltar labor camps, she reported. They're being processed through the integration centers and will be ready for full citizenship within 6 months. The rescue operations were some of their most dangerous missions. Stealth teams would infiltrate alien-controlled facilities, identify human prisoners or slaves, and extract them without leaving any evidence. To the aliens, it looked like humans were simply dying off or escaping on their own. Engineer Kim Tae-woo, now 92 years old, had become a legend among the settlement's technical staff. His underground shipyard had produced 37 vessels, each one incorporating the best of human engineering and captured alien technology. The new battleship Rising Storm completed its trials yesterday, he reported proudly. It can engage 3 alien cruisers simultaneously and win, and they'll never see it coming. The ships were marvels of hidden engineering. They combined human creativity with alien materials, stealth technology with overwhelming firepower. Each vessel was designed to look harmless until the moment it revealed its true nature. Lieutenant Commander Seo Young-min led the most elite unit in the human forces, the Shadow Strike teams. At 31, she had conducted over 40 operations in alien space, always returning without leaving a trace of human involvement. The Nexus Coalition is planning to establish a permanent base in the outer system, she reported during the weekly intelligence briefing. Construction convoy arrives in 3 months. If we let them build it, they'll have permanent eyes on our territory. Fleet Admiral Shinbo-ra studied the tactical displays. The Nexus Coalition was the most dangerous of the 3 alien powers. They were religious fanatics who believed they were destined to rule the galaxy. They had already destroyed 2 human colonies that had tried to resist their expansion. Options? She asked. Colonel Han Min-soo spoke first. Direct assault. We have the firepower to destroy their convoy before it reaches the construction site. Too obvious, Dr. Bae Kyung-ho disagreed. If the Nexus loses a major convoy in this system, they'll investigate. We're not ready for that level of attention. Lieutenant Commander Seo had a different suggestion. We make it look like pirates, or better yet, like the Corvani attacked them. The 3 alien powers are always suspicious of each other. Admiral Shin smiled. This was the kind of thinking that had kept them hidden for 75 years. Elaborate. We hit the convoy using modified Corvani weapons, Seo explained. We leave behind just enough evidence to point to Corvani involvement, but not so much that it looks planted. The Nexus will blame the Corvani will deny it, and the 2 powers will focus on each other instead of looking for the real culprit. The plan was approved and executed flawlessly. The Nexus convoy was destroyed by what appeared to be Corvani raiders using stolen military equipment. The 2 alien powers spent months investigating each other, never suspecting that humans were responsible. Dr. Park So-min reviewed the results of the operation from her underground laboratory. "We're ready for the next phase," she announced. "The alien powers are so focused on their mutual suspicions that they're not paying attention to what's happening under their noses." The next phase was the most ambitious project in human history. Hidden construction facilities throughout the system began building not just ships, but entire fleet bases. Hollowed-out asteroids became invisible shipyards. Underground factories on lifeless moons produced weapons and equipment. Even the planet's ocean floors were converted into manufacturing centers. Captain Ryu Dongmin commanded the growing reconnaissance fleet from his flagship, the stealth carrier Ghostwind. The massive ship could launch 20 smaller stealth vessels while remaining completely invisible to alien sensors. Long-range scouts report successful mapping of the Veltar home system. He announced during the monthly fleet briefing, "We now have complete intelligence on all three alien powers' core territories." The intelligence was staggering. The aliens had massive populations, huge fleets, and advanced technology, but they also had critical weaknesses that decades of observation had revealed. The Corvani were brave but predictable. The Veltar were clever but greedy. The Nexus were fanatical but inflexible. More importantly, the three powers spent so much energy watching each other that they had become blind to external threats. They assumed that any danger would come from one of their known enemies, not from a species they thought was nearly extinct. Admiral Yoon Jae-sung, now 100 years old but still mentally sharp, made the final decision. "We move to open operations in 1 year," he announced. "All three alien powers will learn simultaneously that humanity is not only alive but ready to reclaim what was taken from us." The preparations began immediately. The secret shipyards increased production to wartime levels. The stealth fleets positioned themselves throughout alien space. The ground forces prepared for operations on dozens of worlds simultaneously. Most importantly, the rescued human populations were integrated into the settlement's culture. They brought knowledge of alien weaknesses, understanding of how the galaxy had changed, and most critically, the desperate hope for freedom that had sustained humanity through decades of oppression. Dr. Bae Kyung-ho completed his comprehensive study of alien psychology. "They all make the same mistake," he reported. "They think in terms of immediate threats and obvious enemies. They can't imagine a threat that has been planning for decades, hiding in plain sight, learning their every weakness." Lieutenant Commander Seo Youngmin's strike teams had infiltrated every major alien facility in the sector. They had planted surveillance devices, identified key targets, and established extraction routes for human prisoners. Fleet Admiral Kwan Hyun-woo stood in the war room deep beneath Haven, studying the holographic display that showed the entire star system. At 55, he had spent his entire adult life preparing for this moment. The three-dimensional map glowed with indicators showing alien installations, patrol routes, and defensive positions. In 6 hours, everything would change. "All stealth fleets report ready status," announced Captain Ryu Dongmin from his flagship. 67 ships in position across the system. The aliens have no idea we exist. The perfect storm had arrived exactly as predicted. A disputed asteroid mining claim had triggered the first open hostilities between the three alien powers in over a decade. Corvani battle fleets were moving to protect their territory. Veltar merchant vessels were calling for military escorts. Nexus coalition ships were mobilizing for what they called a holy cleansing operation. Diplomat Lee Yoon-ji had spent 3 years infiltrating all three alien governments using false identities and carefully crafted cover stories. At 39, she was a master of deception who could pass as a member of any alien species. With the right disguises and implants, the trigger incident is escalating perfectly, she reported from her hidden communication center. "I've fed intelligence to all three sides suggesting the others are planning preemptive strikes. Within 12 hours, they'll be shooting at each other instead of talking." General Park Jun-ho commanded the largest military operation in human history from his command bunker. At 47, he had studied every major battle fought by every alien species in the sector. He knew their tactics, their preferred formations, and most importantly, their blind spots. "Ground teams are in position on 17 different installations," he reported. "Once the alien fleets begin their battle, we move simultaneously against every strategic target in the system." The plan was masterful in its complexity. As the alien fleets destroyed each other in open battle, human forces would systematically capture or destroy every space station, orbital platform, mining facility, and communication relay in the system. Each attack would be designed to look like it was carried out by one of the other alien factions. Captain Seo Young-min led the most dangerous part of the operation from her stealth assault ship Silent Thunder. Her elite strike teams would have to infiltrate heavily defended alien facilities, while the occupants were distracted by the larger battle. Primary targets identified and marked, she reported. Command centers, communication hubs, and weapon control stations. We take them all in the first wave. Dr. Bae Kyung-ho had spent months analyzing alien psychology to predict exactly how the battle would develop. The Corvani will charge directly at their enemies, he explained to the assembled commanders. The Veltar will try to maneuver for economic advantage. The Nexus will attempt to destroy both fleets completely. Each faction's predictable behavior will create the chaos we need. The battle began exactly as predicted. A Corvani patrol encountered Veltar cargo ships near the disputed asteroid. Warning shots were fired. Within minutes, military vessels from all three factions were racing toward the confrontation zone. Fleet Admiral Kwan watched the alien fleets converge on the central battleground while his own ships remained hidden throughout the system. All units execute Phase 1. Begin systematic neutralization of fixed installations. The human attacks began simultaneously across the entire star system. Stealth ships emerged from hiding near alien space stations. Weapons charging for the first time in decades. Ground teams activated from hidden positions inside asteroid bases and orbital platforms. The aliens' attention was focused on each other. They never saw the humans coming. Station Corvani 7 was the first to fall. Captain Seo's strike team had infiltrated the facility days earlier, disguised as maintenance workers. When the battle began, they moved through the station like ghosts, systematically disabling security systems and capturing key personnel. The station's distress signal was blocked before it could be transmitted. Engineer Kim Tae-woo's technological marvels proved their worth in the first hour of combat. His stealth ships could penetrate alien defenses without detection, strike with devastating precision, then disappear before the enemy knew what had hit them. His weapons combined human creativity with alien materials to create firepower that exceeded anything the galaxy had seen. Veltar mining platform Delta 4 has been captured intact, reported Colonel Han Min-soo. Minimal casualties, no survivors to report our involvement. As far as anyone knows, it was destroyed by Corvani raiders. The deception was flawless. Each human attack left behind carefully planted evidence pointing to one of the other alien factions. Corvani weapons were used against Veltar targets. Nexus religious symbols were left at the sites of Corvani defeats. Veltar economic documents were planted in destroyed Nexus facilities. Diplomat Lee Yoon-ji coordinated the information warfare from her hidden center, using her infiltrated positions to feed false intelligence to all three alien commands. Corvani Fleet Command believes the Veltar hired Nexus mercenaries, she reported. Veltar leadership thinks the Corvani made a secret alliance with radical Nexus factions. The Nexus are convinced this is a combined assault by both enemies working together. The alien battle escalated beyond all expectations. What had begun as a minor territorial dispute became a full-scale three-way war. Alien ships that should have been investigating the mysterious attacks on their installations were instead locked in desperate combat with each other. Admiral Kwan realized they had achieved something remarkable. The aliens are so focused on destroying each other that they're ignoring everything else. Continue Phase 2 operations. Phase 2 was even more ambitious. With most alien military forces engaged in the central battle, human teams moved against targets throughout the system that had been considered impossible to reach. The heavily fortified Nexus Command Station, the secret Veltar weapon research facility, the Corvani intelligence gathering post that monitored all traffic through the region. Captain Ryu Dongmin's stealth carriers launched fighter squadrons that had been hidden for decades. The small, fast ships swarmed around alien installations like invisible wasps, striking critical systems and disappearing before defensive weapons could lock onto them. "This is incredible," reported Lieutenant Commander Nam Soo-jin from her reconnaissance ship. "The aliens are losing more ships and stations to our hidden attacks than they are to each other. But they still don't realize we exist." The most spectacular success came when General Park Jun-ho's forces captured the main Corvani military depot. A massive installation that contained enough weapons and equipment to supply an entire fleet. The attack was disguised as a Nexus suicide assault, complete with religious propaganda and martyr recordings. We now control 70% of the system's strategic resources, Park reported, and all three alien factions believe their enemies are responsible. Dr. Park So-min, now 98 years old, watched the operation from the medical center where she was being treated for exhaustion. Even in her advanced age, she insisted on overseeing the most critical elements of the plan. The terraforming stations have been secured, she announced weakly but proudly. We can now control the atmospheric conditions on 6 different moons. If any alien force tries to establish a permanent presence here, we can make their environment uninhabitable. The battle reached its climax when the 3 alien fleets finally engaged each other directly in the center of the system. Hundreds of ships exchanged fire in a devastating display that could be seen from the planet's surface. None of the alien commanders realized that human eyes were watching their every move, recording their tactics, and identifying the survivors. Fleet Admiral Kwan made the decision that would change galactic history. Begin Phase 3. Reveal the Ghost Fleet. Hidden throughout the system, 30 massive human battleships dropped their stealth systems simultaneously. They had been positioned during the battle to surround the alien fleets completely. To the aliens, it appeared as if an entire human armada had materialized out of nowhere. The psychological impact was devastating. The 3 alien fleets, already weakened by hours of combat with each other, suddenly found themselves facing an enemy that was supposed to be extinct. Human ships that should not exist were targeting them with weapons that exceeded their own technology. Captain SEO. Young Min's voice came over the communications channel from her position inside a captured alien command center. All 3 alien commanders are requesting immediate reinforcements and reporting impossible human fleet strength. They're panicking. The aliens had no choice but to recognize the truth. Humanity had not only survived but had been preparing for this moment for decades. The species they had dismissed as nearly extinct had been watching, learning, and planning while they fought among themselves. General Park Jun-ho's final report summarized their achievements. We control every strategic position in the system. We've captured or destroyed 90% of alien military assets. The surviving enemy forces are scattered, confused, and demoralized. But the most important victory was psychological. The 3 alien powers that had dominated this sector of space for decades. President Cho Sang-wook stood on the observation deck of the orbital station New Hope, watching the first public human fleet patrol the space lanes of their star system. At 62, he had been elected as the first leader of what they now called the New Terran Republic. The hidden settlement had become a nation, and that nation had claimed its place among the stars. Below him, the planet that had once hidden humanity's greatest secret now served as the capital of humanity's newest power. The underground cities of Haven remained the heart of their civilization, but surface cities were being built for the first time in nearly a century. Children who had never seen sunlight were learning to live under open skies. Admiral Kim Da-yoon commanded the public fleet from her flagship, the battleship Rising Dawn. At 37, she had been born in the underground cities but had always dreamed of commanding ships that could travel openly between the stars. Now she led patrols that protected not just their system, but the growing network of human territories they had liberated. Long-range sensors show clear space lanes throughout the sector, she reported. The Corvani have pulled back to their core systems. The Veltar are requesting trade negotiations. The Nexus Coalition has declared this region cursed by demons and forbid their ships to enter. The revelation of humanity's survival had sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. The 3 alien powers that had dominated this sector for decades were struggling to understand how an entire human civilization had developed in secret. More importantly, they were trying to figure out how to deal with a human nation that possessed technology they couldn't understand and tactical abilities they couldn't predict. Ambassador Park Hae-won had spent 6 months establishing diplomatic contact with human colonies throughout the galaxy. At 41, she was tasked with the most delicate mission in human history, reintroducing the new Terran Republic to the rest of humanity without causing panic or political chaos. Earth has agreed to recognize our independence, she reported during the weekly cabinet meeting. They're actually relieved that we're not asking to rejoin the Terran colonial authority. Our success gives them hope, but they're also afraid of how the aliens will react. The fear was justified. The galaxy's alien powers had spent decades believing that humanity was a conquered species, reduced to scattered colonies and refugee populations. The discovery that humans had been secretly building an advanced civilization changed every political calculation in known space. General Yu Jung-ho commanded the occupation forces that were transforming captured alien installations into human settlements. At 49, he had trained his entire life for warfare in multiple environments against multiple species. Now he was learning how to be a peacekeeper and administrator. The integration process is proceeding smoothly, he reported. Former alien facilities now house 60,000 human refugees we've rescued from various systems. Most are adapting well to life in a free human society. The rescued humans brought incredible intelligence about conditions throughout the galaxy. They confirmed what the new Terran Republic's spies had discovered, that humanity was far from extinct, but was struggling under alien oversight in most systems. The news that a free human nation existed spread through the galaxy's underground networks like wildfire. Dr. Bae Kyung-ho had become the Republic's expert on galactic politics. His analysis of alien reactions to their revelation had helped shape their diplomatic strategy. The smaller alien powers are reconsidering their relationships with humans, he reported. Some are actually offering alliance agreements. They see us as a potential protector against the three major empires. The political transformation was remarkable. Within 6 months of revealing themselves, the new Terran Republic had become a major player in galactic politics. Their combination of advanced technology, superior tactics, and complete intelligence networks made them a force that no one could ignore. Captain Shin Bo-ra, now a fleet admiral at 85, oversaw the expansion of human territory from her command center in Haven. The underground cities remained the Republic's most secure locations, but they were no longer hiding places. They were command centers for a growing interstellar power. We've established permanent bases in 7 systems, she reported. Each location was chosen for strategic value and liberation potential. We're not just claiming territory, we're freeing human populations that have been enslaved for decades. The liberation operations had become the Republic's signature strategy. Instead of conquering alien worlds, they focused on systems where humans were held in slavery or under oppressive alien rule. Their sudden appearance, followed by the swift defeat of alien occupiers, made them heroes to oppressed human populations throughout the galaxy. Engineer Kim Tae-woo, now 97 years old, had lived to see his hidden shipyards become the foundation of a new human navy. His designs were being copied by human engineers throughout the galaxy, but the original versions remained superior to anything anyone else could build. The new industrial complexes are producing ships for other human colonies, he reported proudly. We're not just defending ourselves, we're rearming all of humanity. The economic implications were staggering. The new Terran Republic had developed manufacturing capabilities that exceeded most alien civilizations. Their closed-loop production systems, perfected during decades of underground existence, could produce advanced technology using minimal raw materials. They were becoming the galaxy's premier supplier of human military equipment. Lieutenant Commander Seo Young-min, now a general, led diplomatic missions to alien worlds that had requested peaceful contact. At 56, she had transitioned from conducting stealth operations to negotiating treaties. Her ability to understand alien psychology made her invaluable in complex diplomatic situations. The Alterian Confederation wants to establish formal relations, she reported. They've been fighting the Corvani Empire for years and see us as natural allies. They're offering exclusive mining rights to rare elements in exchange for military protection. These alliances were reshaping the balance of power throughout the sector. Smaller alien civilizations that had been crushed between the 3 major empires now had a protector that could stand up to their oppressors. The new Terran Republic was becoming the center of a growing coalition of free peoples. Dr. Park So-min had passed away peacefully at age 99, but her terraforming legacy lived on. Her techniques were being used to transform hostile worlds into garden planets. The Republic was not just claiming territory, they were making it livable for massive human populations. President Cho received daily reports about the Republic's growing influence. Human colonies that had struggled under alien oversight for decades were requesting membership in the new Terran Republic. Others wanted alliance agreements or mutual defense pacts. The hidden settlement that had once numbered 50,000 people was becoming the heart of a renaissance of human power. We've received a formal request from the Terran Colonial Authority Ambassador Park reported during their morning briefing. They want to establish a permanent embassy on our capital world. Earth wants to learn from our success. The irony was not lost on anyone. The Earth government that had abandoned them during the war now sought their protection and guidance. The colony that had been written off as lost was now more advanced than the homeworld itself. Admiral Kim De-yoon's fleets patrolled space lanes that stretched across dozens of star systems. The ships that had once hidden in the shadows now traveled openly, their presence a guarantee of safety for human merchants and travelers. The new Terran Republic's flag was becoming a symbol of hope. Throughout human space, General Yu's forces had evolved from occupying captured alien bases to establishing permanent human settlements on worlds that had been uninhabitable for centuries. The Republic's advanced life support technology and terraforming abilities allowed them to colonize planets that other species considered worthless. The transformation was complete when the first interstellar trade convoy arrived from Earth, requesting permission to establish commercial relations with the new Terran Republic. The ships that approached their space lanes flew under diplomatic flags and carried messages of respect rather than demands for surrender. President Cho stood in the same underground chamber where Captain Lee Dae-ho had first announced their plan to disappear from the galaxy's view. Now it served as the meeting hall for the Republic Senate, where representatives from dozens of human worlds debated policy for their growing interstellar nation. 100 years ago, 50,000 humans went underground to survive. He addressed the assembled senators. Today, 50 million humans look to us for leadership, protection, and hope. We have become what our founders dreamed, a free human nation among the stars. The children who now played in the underground gardens of Haven were learning languages from dozens of worlds. They studied the histories of alien civilizations and the tactics needed to defend human freedom. They grew up knowing that they were citizens of a nation that had proved humanity could not be conquered, could not be exterminated, and would never again be underestimated. The hidden settlement had become a republic. The republic had become an empire.